All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics and Money. Excited to be with you. How are you, Elizabeth?
I am doing great. And we have some very interesting things going on in the world right now.
I know. You know what I found out this morning?
What?
The taxes that the state government here in Texas is, it's a fraud. All that school tax and all that. That's a topic for another day, but not for here. It's just pathetic how governments are. But anyway, we have an interesting topic we're going to be addressing for you and providing you the ins and outs of it today. It's because it's relevant.
Yes.
And this, of course, comes after on the heels of the BRICS.
Yes. So we have a couple of really key questions that we're asking, not about the BRICS summit, because quite frankly, the BRICS summit was, I think, kind of what everyone expected with the top leaders, the top two, Putin and Xi not being there. It was kind of lackluster, but there's some really, really important things that came out of that entire situation. The first is the 10% tariff that Donald Trump, US President Donald Trump, is threatening to put on the BRICS countries simply because they're part of BRICS. And simply because, there are pieces to this. There's very interesting logic on why that might be happening. The second piece of that is India and China. So the United States has actually put a huge rift in a situation that there were already a rift in. So the United States is their largest trading partner, not China. So we're going to dive a little bit into the rift that the United States is actually putting between China and India in an attempt, in my opinion, I mean, it's just my opinion, but in my opinion, in an attempt to actually start to separate BRICS out. Because if you look at percentage of GDP or GDP percentage globally, India is above Russia in terms of GDP. So the second most economically powerful country in BRICS, should it be separated from BRICS, I am curious to see whether BRICS would continue to exist or not. So even though the event itself, the BRICS summit, was not really much of anything, we're now looking at the potential rift in BRICS because of Donald Trump's tariffs.
Funny, I addressed this one yesterday. I had a conversation with Dr. Warwick Bao, and we addressed this one, and I did bring it up to the fore. And this has to do with, is the expansion of BRICS is the one that is hindering its progress, because now you're going to be running to an issue of lack of consensus. When you have the likes of India is already, and this one is on a separate note, but still relevant. Did you know that the final communique, which they all agreed on, there was one particular clause pertaining to Gaza. India didn't subscribe to it. And gives you the story right there. But beside the point, we all know where India stands. And I'm not rendering India as a punching bag here. That's not. All I'm talking about are the facts. Are the facts. No more notice. Because the idea of the financial aspect, because that's one of the things that BRICS wants to move forward, is to shackle itself from the U.S. financial dominance. India seems to be opposing any direction of that.
Well, so here's what we've got, because it's not just India is a bad guy because they're, separating from BRICS, whatever. And they're not separating from BRICS, guys. That's not what I meant.
Even though a lot of people are asking for India to leave.
Well, I'm one of them, it's because economically, so do you go, if you're India, for example, so right now, one big story that's happening is that according to Reuters, let me share this. Let me share this article with you guys. And sorry, there are a million ads because that's just the way it is. But according to Reuters, let me add this to the stage. Apple is actually moving, and I'm only going to show it for a second because there are a million ads on here. I don't like ads, guys. Oh, this is absolute insanity. There's so many ads. Okay. Apple moving to make most iPhones for the US in India rather than China. Okay. So this is what's starting to happen. So India is well positioned, or well-ish positioned, because India really does still have a lot of quality control issues, but India is positioned sort of, to be able to take over manufacturing from China now that the China tariffs are that high.
Yeah, but you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because India does not have the infrastructure that China does. So I don't see, it might work for the short term, but long term, mark my word on this. Even if it goes forward within a year or so, or even 2, you're going to see Apple leaving because they already tried one and it didn't work.
Here's the thing. The tariffs on China are not going away. So Donald Trump did out of all. So he's not talking about tariffs going away from all these other countries. We'll talk a little bit further later about all of the countries that got letters, right? They got all these letters. We have a couple of the letters. So we'll talk about those in a minute, but we're talking right now about moving manufacturing from China to India of iPhones specifically, because that's that's a big pulse on the market. So it is true that India has infrastructure issues and a lot of them, but I would not have thought this would have been an option. I would not have necessarily thought that would have been an option because China now makes about 80% of the iPhones that end up in the United States. Manufacturing costs in India are somewhere between 3 and 10% more expensive to make the iPhone in India. Okay, that's great, but that's still far less than the tariffs that are coming that have been imposed on China. So it's not they're doing it because India is so great and has the best infrastructure. They're doing it because it makes financial sense. And so that's one of the things that Donald Trump actually wanted to do with the tariffs.
Here's the thing. The key products, the ingredients of whatever it is coming from China.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about what do iPhones are in need?
Absolutely. Rare earths, critical minerals.
Rare earths. So whatever way we look at it, I mean, I see your point. It's just I don't see the long-term impact regarding India's economy because they're lacking the infrastructure needed for that kind of production. China does. China has both. The financial aspect, the infrastructure, and the brains for that.
Absolutely.
India does not.
They don't, but they don't at this point. And so the companies...
But would they ever? Remember, they used to say, we're going to be the top of the world. We're going to replace China. I mean, I remember, I still have that on record. 5 or 6, 7 years ago, they were saying, watch for India is going to become... No, India is nothing. It won't be. No offense to Indian individuals who are watching.
Absolutely.
We do have followers from India, by the way.
Of course. One of my best friends is Indian.
But no offense to India.
You always separate the people of a country from the government. It does not matter what country you are in. You are not in control of your government.
That's true.
So
I want to put this forth. The idea of Apple moving forward this direction, they're going to find out when the quality of the products start to suffer. It's going to become evident, and it became clear already. Way back, I remember when it was a decision about the 5G. Remember when we pressured India to turn down the Chinese 5G. Okay. At that time, Apple was thinking about moving some of its operations, and what did he end up finding out? The quality of the product. It's not where it needs to be. So they left again, and I see the same. Here's what I can tell you, or this is just my observation, being in the world and paying attention, is that corporations will always find ways. They are legally beholden to find ways to maximize shareholder profit. That is actually literally their legal job here in the United States. It is not even to produce the best quality product. It is not to take care of the environment. It is not to take care of the user, the end user who buys their product. It is literally legally to take care of their shareholders. And what we're looking at right now is tariffs from
goods coming from China that are so high that Apple and other countries or other companies may not have a choice. And there is an interesting thing that happens. It was when they did a cost benefit analysis for what it would have taken to, increase the infrastructure capabilities in India. At that time, their cost benefit analysis showed that it was cheaper to go to China. But if they're currently, because I don't know, I'm obviously not an insider, but if they're doing a cost benefit analysis right now, they may have decided that the benefit is worth the cost of investing in that infrastructure. So it's not that they can't invest in the infrastructure. It's that at that point, the cost benefit analysis didn't allow them to. So I'm not saying they will or won't. What I am saying is this was the point that of Donald Trump's tariffs, especially against China, is he wanted things like this to happen. The thing is that manufacturing, as we know, isn't just going to magically come back to the United States. Not at this point.
It will never. It will never.
It'll never come back the way it looked before. But we're looking at, as the AI race sort of speeds up, having AI factories that are only manned by like 5 people and a whole bunch of robots. Manufacturing may come back that way, but it will never come back where it's like factory line workers putting stuff in place. That's not going to happen,
but
right?
Look at also where China is regarding this domain. I just find out that Huawei company, now they plunged into the AI sector.
They had to.
The more investment is going to be, and from experience, and we've been observing, we've been doing this for quite a while now. So we observe and we see how things are. When Chinese gets involved into something, they see it through till the end. Well, so for the AI race, the US will always be playing catch up, because here is the fact, and I kept a picture of this one. I'm going to share it with you. You guys will be familiar with it. The idea that now this trade war here, it's really what's beneath it is the tech dominance.
Oh, absolutely.
That is what's at the
absolutely. And that's what we've been actually talking about for weeks now, or years now, even, that who wins the tech race is who decides basically global trade.
And the other aspects of it is also who controls the rare earth, because it will be crucial to the AI dominance. Let's shift to Donald Trump's letters.
Okay, so
as to how this came to be, to me, the shocking one was the shocking. I'm not surprised at his ill-conceived policies because they are ill-conceived. I'm also surprised at whomever is advising him, but that's beside the point. What surprised me the most was how you are treating allies at this point. I'm talking about 2 countries in Asia,
South Korea and Japan.
Yes, that's correct. So, and makes you now wonder, is this because, and I am referring here to Japan, has pushed back against the US. But on the other hand, when we see the reality for what it is on both countries, do they have any sovereignty over their territory? I mean, let's be honest about it, guys. What do you think? Given the amount of US troops on their soil, meaning in Japan and in South Korea.
Well, after World War II, I mean, obviously we know the position that Japan was in.
Yeah.
And so
we created that.
Well,
we prevented the access to energy. Remember?
Yeah. Well, they were an enemy in World War II, right?
That's correct.
And that seems, I remember listening to George Takei. You didn't watch Star Trek, but he was.
I know you've been on his original watching Star Trek.
His original Star Trek, but he's Japanese, and he was talking about when he came to the United States, his family was put in concentration camps.
Wow.
He was a small child. But it would be. Thinking about a Japanese person being in a concentration camp right now would be insane.
Of course.
That's ridiculous.
While I'm thinking about it, before I forget, also it's almost the 80th anniversary of Japan invasion of China.
It's been circulating.
A dear friend of mine mentioned it to me, Dr. Dashan Fang. He mentioned it to me. He and I will communicate. So it makes me also wonder about, and this brings back to our conversation here regarding the letters that now Trump sent in.
Yes.
So it becomes clear to me that the idea of bullying We're going to use the term as is. We're not going to sugarcoat this one here. This amounts to bullying, basically. But here is where I see the key aspect to this is that what Trump is doing it with states that he knows they won't be able to respond. If we take the case of China, he puts tariffs on China. But what did China do? If you only know, guys, and we might be doing a special video for you later on regarding this aspect. We're not going to detail much about it right now, but we might be doing one for you guys. And my reference here is to the idea of how China, knows how to respond to Trump's bullying. And as a matter of fact, this morning, it was a statement from President Xi Jinping. I had a chance to read it. That it just was straightforward.
Yeah.
Instead of he's talking to the U.S. basically, the administration, and I'm paraphrasing. Instead of creating this chaos around the globe, why don't you focus on internal issues, domestic?
Absolutely.
He got a point.
Absolutely.
We have massive issues here in America. Let's just basically be honest.
Yes.
You look at like my dear friend Dr. Warwick Powell mentioned yesterday. The wages have not increased for so many decades in the U.S. So when you think about this, people are stretching here in the U.S., average people. So the gap is widening in America. So, and this is why for Trump to be focusing on, the question is going to be coming up is how country is going to be dealing with this, because you still have 3 more years with Trump.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the very beginning of Trump's term. I mean, this is not, this is not, he's about to leave and somebody else is about to take over. But the
damage will be done.
Yes. And I mean, he makes a good point. You make a really good point that it's sometimes easier to look out at the rest of the world and say, well, you guys are the cause of our problems. But the reality is that the United States has horrible problems here on the inside that they really are not, they're really not taking care of. They're not really paying attention to.
I'm going to make a comparison here.
Sure.
This might sound a little bit outside the mainstream thinking. And to me, I speak for myself here. I almost compare this now to what took place with Israel. What am I referring to? Israel now is considering whether when you read in the Israeli media, the government is considering, you know what it means? That they already have talked about and there's the option forward. You know what they're considering? Agreements with Iran, agreements with Hamas, agreements with Houthis. Why is this? Especially the Houthis. Why? It's because Houthis fired back, pushed back. And now Israel is realizing on the verge of destruction if they don't change course. I am noticing for the US is the same direction it's going. And once other countries beside China, because China is the only one so far, once other countries push back against the US, the US will have no other option but either to enter into agreements or cut some deals behind closed doors. That's the only way I see it. So when Trump is going with this bravado and this chest thumping attitude of we're gonna send a letter and sanction you and all that stuff, makes you just wonder about other countries. When you send the letter to Japan, what if Japan didn't have any sovereignty for the last 4 decades or so?
Sure. Well, I think longer than that.
When South Korea couldn't even ask for the US to reduce its population, knowing that now what's coming into Asia is exactly what Trump is thinking about. And I'm referring to, there are some stuff going on right now in the country, like Philippines, with the military dimension to it. That's a hint as to what lies ahead. Of course, what Mr. Trump said yesterday, which was laughable. He said that he will.
Which thing?
Yeah. Do you want to know? He said he will bomb China if China invade Taiwan. I mean, just
I know.
Stupidity of it. Yeah, he's off the cuff comment, but the stupidity of it. If he only understands the dynamics of where the balance of power on the global stage is right now.
It's interesting because every single election, there's a candidate that some percentage of people are like, He'll be different. This guy will be different.
Yeah.
Bush will be different.
Yeah.
Obama will be different. Trump will be different.
They're all the same.
And they're all the freaking same. And I mean, within the first, 6 months of Trump's presidency, things have gone off the absolute rails.
And the American people that are suffering.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we did.
People are mad.
We talked about it in the show that we did put on a record that guys, do not fall for the lies. It's the American people, us, that are paying for this thing.
Well, and
it's us.
It is. And here's the thing. So like, we're talking about spending, right?
Yeah.
So right now there's a huge conversation about the big, beautiful bill and how much it's adding extra. So, we're still on track this year to add $2 trillion to our national deficit. Right?
Wow.
We're still on track to do that. Nothing stopped the hemorrhaging of spending.
I don't know if it's correct, this number or not.
Where are we?
Our national debt, your family share of this.
Oh, it's higher than that now.
It's higher. Okay, that's an older one. Okay.
I
just thought about this one and just came to mind. I was like, wow.
Yeah, here, let me share this one.
And the policies that he is embarking on, we all know what it's going to lead to. No, and here is the thing that we need to go back to BRICS here, because it's a very, very important point to tie it to the letters that's been sent to these countries and so forth. And the question is, because it's clear, it's not in the open, that Trump is at war with BRICS.
Yeah. So, and this is the current national debt. One? So this is usdebtclock.org. It is fantastic. It gives you the largest budget items, unfunded debt and interest, money creation, the US M2 money supply. I mean, and you can see just about everything on here. So it's very much worth it if you guys
is there a link for that?
Yeah, it's usdebtclock.org.
Okay, yeah, guys, check it out. Check it out, please. I mean, this is just for your own knowledge. This is not about,
absolutely.
Just to be
and I want to say, like, even when times are really tough, you can still succeed. So I had an interesting conversation because, this last weekend was 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
So I had a very interesting conversation with a whole bunch of people this weekend, because a lot of people are very much not feeling proud necessarily of being American for a whole lot of reasons. And
can we take this? What is this image here?
What? Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just didn't know if it was.
So I had a very interesting conversation with a couple of people, and, everyone's like really down in the dumps, and they're like, well, everything sucks and everything's terrible. And I was like, that's true. But if you also don't focus on what you want to happen, you're going to get stuck letting these people continue doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what happens, is people get so beaten down that they stop trying. They just complain about the way that things are. So you can't do that either. You have to look at what it is you actually want to change and then do something about it. Right. So, and it's hard to know what to do, but you guys are very intelligent people. I have a lot of faith in you. I see the comments. You guys are overall very, very intelligent, much more intelligent, I think, than the rest of the internet, for sure. You guys really are like top tier.
And we mean it.
And we really mean it. You guys are so smart. So, find the ways to do the things that you believe in. And we did geopolitics and money because I want you guys to figure out how to become wealthy, powerful people yourselves, because you guys are the type of people that we actually need running the world, not these people who are just, just absolutely treating the world like they absolutely do not care. Yeah. And I remember I said this a couple weeks ago, that I watched a video where a guy was talking about the system overall. And, this is just, it's a guy you would not think would like say this, but he basically said that this is engineered this way. And this is because the people at the top, it is working for them. Donald Trump is he's not suffering because of this. And quite frankly, even if we go back to, for a second, if we go back to the India versus China situation, it's not like India is being like, no, we're part of BRICS. So US, we're not going to take your trade. We're not going to do your trade deals. We're not going to take your trade. We're part of BRICS. We're going to go with China. They're not doing that.
India is for
right. But that's what I'm saying. Trump is for Trump. India is for India. China, quite frankly, is for China. All these countries.
It's a strategic interest.
It's strategic interest.
But when you double play, that's where the issue. Because in the case of India,
I think it's shady for sure.
Is standing on both sides of the fence. Where do you stand on issues? I mean, it became clear now what they've been doing regarding the spies that's been involved in Israel, regarding what they've been doing with their IDF. I mean, things are coming out to the surface. So now they even make arrangements now for building some construction for weapons for Israel in India to be used in Gaza. I mean, come on, where do you draw the line? And the idea of pushing the narrative that, well, Mr. Trump deserved a Nobel Peace Prize. And
well, I mean, Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize. It doesn't mean anything anymore. I remember at the time being like, for literally what? And nobody could really tell anybody why he got one. He just got one.
Yeah, it's corrupted. Anyway.
For doing what?
That's true. That's corrupted. And that will be a topic for another, because there is a lot. Even, by the way, I'm just sharing this with you guys. During my days in Washington, I came across information that suggests how corrupted the Nobel Committee is.
I mean, if they're just going to
like stuff behind, but that's for another day. So let's talk about one aspect. I don't want to leave till we address it, and this has to do with finance.
Great.
Now, the idea of where BRICS moving forward financially, and could it be this war of Trump on BRICS specifically limited to the financial aspect because they are fearing the demise of the dollar?
Well, yes. Okay. And so that's the let's see.
I just found it very, very
so
important.
I think
to address.
I think that is the thing. So here's the tweet. It's the Truth Social post from Donald J. Trump. Any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
What a language.
Well, so, but you touched on exactly what I think is happening. What I think is happening is that BRICS has become a powerhouse, and not on its own. It's become a powerhouse because China has become a powerhouse. And so this is countries more or less, except for India, that were shunned by the United States, that then banded together and created BRICS. Okay. So when all of this conversation about BRICS sort of ditching the US dollar and really trying to take down the US dollar, I mean, it would be stupid if the Trump administration ignored that entirely. It is the conversation that's going on, is that this more than the United States, more than the G7 worth of GDP, global GDP, is trying to dump the US dollar.
The other second question to that follows is, what will Europe do? Will the euro wants to take advantage of this and move forward? And that even leads us to the bigger question. Will we ever see the EU joining BRICS? I know some say already, and I agree with this assessment. Some already say you cannot trust the EU joining BRICS. I mean, they already have, BRICS already has issues with India. That is a founding member, but is the bidding for the US inside the organization. You have now some Arab states that joined from the Gulf. Are you going to trust Egypt? Are you going to trust United Arab Emirates?
No, that's kind of a wild choice.
But the logical question for us to ask is, what will the EU do? Because the EU, I just came back from Europe recently, and the conversation in Europe is not sort of as it used to be. There is now this thinking, can we? This is Europeans thinking, can we disassociate from the Americans? Can we pivot east completely, economically?
Well, the EU has a whole bunch of challenges right now, including the EU nations themselves, especially Germany and France are facing some real problems internally. So the EU as a whole also is facing some really big problems. And, we just had all this NATO conversation and blah, blah, blah. Trump has been trying to pull out of and get rid of NATO for a really long time, which is not necessarily wrong. I mean, especially because Russia has been trying to join NATO. Look, I know what the official, I know what the official narrative is and all of that, but I don't know. It's hard to see what Europe is going to do because the EU is still very attached to the US. So it is, and it depends on which country you're talking about. The EU countries are all sort of handling that differently. They're all handling that sort of based on their own criteria. Some of them are doing it based on what's good for that country. Some of them are doing it based on allegiance to either the US or whatever. So I don't know. That's a big question, is where the EU will go and which country will go where.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about, because it made me just think about the idea of will the Europeans take advantage of it? Because it's a strategic move.
Absolutely.
I will do it if I am Europe. If I am realizing the dollar, it's going down. There is no question about it. Wouldn't want to promote my own currency? And it makes me just wonder, in terms of if they are to go that route, is this means that BRICS will be more not concerned, but rather more convinced about, is it time to create our own? But that is where the problem that I see is the expansion of BRICS, that you might not be able to reach consensus.
For sure. And looking at the countries that they already accepted, those are interesting choices, at least in my opinion.
But the US has thumb on some of those countries.
That's what I'm saying, is why did they, I'm sure there are strategic reasons why they chose those countries. But really in BRICS, the powerhouse is China. The powerhouses are China and Russia. And then we have India, that is economically better than Russia, I guess, in terms of GDP. But so really the powerhouse is China, because if China were not in BRICS would not really amount to much.
It won't amount to much. I mean, it's a reality. To those who've seen, and like I said earlier, to the argument that's been made, and I heard it during my time in DC. I heard it back then. Within the next decade, India's going to replace China. There was coming, those arguments were coming from think tanks inside Washington. And I just shook my head. I was like, what the heck are they talking about? Because there is no way India will be able to improve its infrastructure, its financial structure, its domestic agendas and so forth within a decade. And here we are.
Well, and a big reason for that is because generations have to come up. So if you see 10, 20, 30 years ahead of time, China's been working on what they've been working on for a long, long time. I mean, this is not overnight. So you have children born into basically a government that said, okay, this is sort of what our plans were long term. That's why I think people are very, very concerned about the United States, is because if you look at right now, the generations being born right now and the younger generations, we don't see a push towards education. We don't see a push towards specialization. We don't see, especially in the tech sector. And in fact, I don't want this, because I don't want a UBI. But with the push for artificial intelligence that the United States specifically has right now, Elon Musk has talked about a UBI. A couple of the big tech giants have talked about a UBI, which for those of you who don't know, it's universal basic income, which means everybody would get, X amount of dollars or whatever currency, but X amount of currency in order to cover their basic needs, because their employment would not be required in the economy. And so they still have to survive, right? The people of a country still have to survive.
Yeah.
So it's a universal basic income. And the problem with that is, first of all, your government then entirely controls what you do and don't spend this money on, because it will be some type of digital currency. They're not going to go and hand you cash. It's going to be a digital currency of some kind. And it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be something crazy. It can be a digital dollar or whatever it is that you can only spend in these places. So that's it's complete control. It's complete control. But with the push for artificial intelligence, educated people, I think basically my opinion, but basically what it looks like they're doing is they don't have to invest in these generations, because these generations aren't going to do anything anyway. Yeah. They're going to be put on UBI, and
that's right. And that's exactly why, did you know that the Trump administration cut down the scientific research dollars from that for that scientific research?
That's what I'm saying is with artificial intelligence, because the thing that they didn't cut down on is artificial intelligence. The amount of investment dollars that are coming that way is so substantial.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the US is going to, whether the US or China cracks the quantum computing code first or whatever it is, one is going to be fast after the other, and both are going to have massive ability with AI, probably quantum computing, all of that. They're going to have, both countries are going to have it.
Just to share a piece of information, I was talking to someone who is very familiar with this domain inside China, and was informed that the Chinese are already moved really, really, really faster in this domain, quantum computing. And I read what he shared with me. Of course, I didn't understand it. It's not my domain.
I don't understand it either.
But the gist of it, because the person I talked to broke it down to me.
Yeah.
And the person I talked to is in physics. So explained to me that this is a major.
It is major, and it's interesting.
The Chinese reached that.
It literally, and it's crazy because we talk about quantum computing like, oh, it's this thing, but it's wildly fascinating, and it should make you question reality. It should make you question what reality is, that they're even attempting quantum computing.
I might have that person. I'll reach out and see. Would you like to see that person here, guys?
I'm sure
it's a different domain of conversation. It's not for everybody. So
to be honest, I'm very curious about AI, and if you guys were open to it, I would definitely like to do more AI.
Insight.
I would like to do more AI, because if you're looking at global investment right now, if you're looking at sort of where the money is going, I don't want to just talk to you guys about how bad stuff is. Like, I also want to talk to you guys about some of the interesting things that are going on. Because it's changing the face of the world. It's not just individual countries. Like, we talk about US versus China, but quite frankly, it's changing both. And then it's changing every other country along with it to varying degrees. Yeah. And so I do want to branch out a little bit more into that type of content, because it's geopolitics and money, because those are the big industries people are putting their dollars towards. Like, this is like a different type of industrial revolution. Yeah. And during the Industrial Revolution, everything about how business was made or how business was done changed. Yeah. And we're right at the beginning of this. We're right at the beginning of this next sort of leap forward. So if you guys are open to it, I mean, I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. But, the YouTube algorithm doesn't always love our content, love what we have to say. So it's up to you guys if you want to see more of that or not.
Yeah, we'll do that. So anyway, guys, well, we hope you get at least some understanding of what's going on now with this Trump wild policies. They just like, I still don't get it as to who is advising him. But of course, he surrounded himself with individuals. Yes, sir. Nobody will ever dare to challenge him on that, and that's usually bad. That's bad if nobody couldn't take stand. And even now, I just read this morning they are now sanctioning the representative of the UN that was in Israel. I forgot her name. If anybody knows her name, and even Marco Rubio, he knew that it's wrong because all she was talking about are the facts.
Yeah,
he knew deep down. You could see in his face, not convinced, but he couldn't. He couldn't challenge Trump and say no.
Well, not to dive into the Epstein stuff too much, because that is like the big thing that's trying to take everyone's attention away right now.
Yeah,
is the government. There was the funniest freaking title I think I ever read. It was something like the government finds that it is not guilty or something like
Justice
that.
Department,
the Justice Department found itself not guilty.
Yeah, and if you find out who's the head of the FBI.
My God.
Who's the head of the FBI is what's his name?
Kash Patel.
Now, if you only know who Kash Patel is dating,
dude, it's all
I'm not gonna get into that. So, but anyway, so by the way, FYI, guys, remember to join me on Saturday. I'm gonna put the link for you in the chat box. This is my conversation with Professor Anna Malandag. We'll be talking about really something going on in the Philippines. So I'll be talking about that on Saturday. Yeah. And
Army with Harmony gifted a show membership. Thank you so much.
Vivian, Army with Harmony has been supporting the channel since the beginning.
I know. We're very appreciative.
And others as well. So we're very grateful. Speaking of that, guys, please, if this is your first time, we would greatly appreciate if you can hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. We will really appreciate it if you can share it with others. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you all enjoyed it. And of course, we look forward to seeing you next time. We are always open to your suggestions. And please, please put a comment in the comment section. We do read your comments. So, So, absolutely. And any suggestion as far as topics, we are open. It's all of us here. It's not just us deciding on the topics. We do our best to bring you the issues that we feel will be relevant for you to know. But your input, your insights is also matter to us.
Yeah.
Because that's what a community is all about. So.
Well, we literally have the smartest community,
and
I believe, on the internet.
And you guys are literally. I don't watch much of YouTube stuff, other people's channel. I don't. Once a while, I'll do this, and when I look at the comments, no offense to anybody, because I don't even watch more than 2 minutes. You know why? It's because some videos are out of touch with the reality.
I know.
I mean, that's why I kind of, if the community is consuming this kind of content, that says a lot about the community. So we don't have that here because also we don't do this kind of propaganda information. We're not into that.
No, and we tried to I remember we had the conversation of maybe we should dumb our content down, and then we're like, no, we can't.
I saw one, just a title. It says that because Xi Jinping didn't attend BRICS.
Yeah.
Some YouTube channels talked about Xi Jinping losing power in Beijing. I was like, and yet I didn't watch it because title is enough for me to know what I'm looking at. It's just our point to you guys. When we say you are the smartest, we are not saying it to be nice.
No, you guys really are.
We mean it because we've been with you. You've been with us for how long now? 4 years?
It maybe close to 5. Like we're headed towards 5 years, I think.
So we kind of
we have 650 videos.
Wow.
Can you believe that? We have 650 videos. I was like, this is
and guys, I read and I can tell a lot. When you become a professor, you will know through the writing how someone is expressing if it is real or not. So I can also spot the fake stuff quickly because the grammatical structure of a sentence is not cohesive. So in any event,
guys, we're not AI, we're real.
No, we're real.
We're real people.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whatever part of the world you're in, and we look forward to seeing you next time. You take care. Bye-bye.